Welcome back. I've got Randall Thames on the line. Randall, really good to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. You do some amazing work. A lot of it is, pretty much the same hymn book that I play around with. So this is going to be a fun conversation. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Wow. So much to say, so little time. So let's start with I, for the last maybe 35 years, spent time in corporate America, really finding myself. And so in that journey, it came to I think, a crucial point where I did a self-assessment, which I recommend everyone do because you got to get around some truth tellers when you do your self-assessment and realize that one of my key words that came from it was inspire. And so in that word inspire, actually, I wanted to activate that word. And what I did was created Inspire, my initials RIT, Inspirit Institute. So after 35 years, spent time at J&J, Korn Ferry, Aon, some, pretty large, significant consulting firms. I wanted to do it under the auspices of my personal purpose, which is to inspire. So left corporate America, senior partner, and started Inspirit Institute. Under that umbrella, wrote the book Rise to the Role, which I inspire people to find their position in life and elevate or rise in that position.
That's great stuff. And obviously that experience you picked up at J&J and Korn Ferry. I used to work at Russell Reynolds a long time ago. So I know what it's like to be in that type of environment and you're dealing with some top-notch leaders from across the globe, not just from the consulting side of things, but the clients that you're placing into various large organizations. So uh, if anybody has the opportunity to work in those environments, even like as an intern or something like that, I highly recommend it because you get exposed to a lot of different things and just be a sponge, take it all in. But all those experiences, and when you decide, okay, I'm going to launch my own organization and eh, inspiration, it's one of those things where especially with people that are going through tough times and they're struggling, maybe they're
Mm,
overworked, they're stressed, they're burned out, whatever the case may be, they somehow close the door to that inspiration side of things because even if you're having a tough go of it, if you can find the inspiration of the value of what you do and what you bring to the
yeah,
organization, to your family, your friends, society, all of that, if you can channel in on that,
absolutely.
it's like we're having an umbrella and a rain jacket in a rainstorm. It's like the storm's still there. I'm not saying it's going to go away, but you have a little bit better shield from that so you can make sure that you are, striving to be your optimum best. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. So that the inspiration part, I mean, that's really good, and I say you lead with a heart with that. But let's talk about the head. And so I would say, Michael, let's talk about challenges and circumstances, the headwinds of what's going on, geopolitical, socioeconomical, whatever that might be. So here's what I say: process covers problems. And so, what we want to do, yes, we want to inspire, but we also want to create processes. And as part of a process, what we do, we have a framework. I have a framework, which is that process is discover. And here's maybe the inspiration through data, insights, and experiences. If you can discover, develop, display your best, which is your, as we call it, super purpose power, that process of discover, develop, display will create an opportunity for you to have what we also call inevitable outcomes. So, whatever those circumstances might be, the challenging times, the inspiration is go through the process. The inspiration is discover it. Then the work of, and this comes with habit, consistency, and discipline, develop a plan. Then, once you develop that plan or process, display it so that it benefits you, but through you, you can then inspire others and create a transformation.
Yeah. And I'm a big systems guy. I love systems because
Mm,
when things are collectively and collaboratively set up.
Yeah,
As a leader, you can say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Don't forget to get the input of the people that are doing the work, because if you
absolutely.
do, then and I remember this when I worked in healthcare. We sat on big government committees. We're going to redesign how healthcare is delivered. They're still trying to redesign it. It's the
Yeah,
same as it was 20 years ago,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm sure it's 50 years ago. Nothing's changed. But we'd have these meetings, and there was never a doctor present because they always had the meetings right in the middle of practice time for doctors. And then we'd go and say, "Hey, docs, we've got this great system." And they'd look at it and they literally pick it apart like a surgeon, removing things that don't belong in the body. And it's
yeah,
like, we could have avoided that if we would have had their input as we were building this. And that was maybe it was common sense on my part, but it certainly wasn't common sense to the others. Like, if we can meet with them at 7 o'clock at night and actually move this initiative forward, I'll I'll step aside my boundary of working late, and I'll come in and do that because I believe in this and this is important. And I think as an organization, we know, and you see them all the time, there's all kinds of organizations that are really struggling because their system is no system. They don't have one. They don't have any.
yeah,
They've got maybe a couple SOPs here and there scattered, but nothing talks with each other. And people, unfortunately, and silos get built up and no one's talking. And you wonder, how are we getting anything done here? And somehow they get some things done, but not in an effective, efficient way. And that just takes a strain. It hurts retention, it hurts morale, it productivity levels, you name it. And you see it all the time. That's
yeah.
why the work that you do is so important, because it kind of clears out all of those barriers and silos that we end up constructing in our organizations and get to the point of have it kind of flow like a river. Yes, there's twists and turns and ups and downs, but it's flowing, and you can get in and you can get, acclimated to what's going on. And then eventually you start seeing improvement in retention. You start seeing improvement in productivity. Your client satisfaction scores start to rise, and everybody goes, "Wow, this is working." Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I know. Surprise, it's working. It's like, why? It's because we got rid of all of the barriers and things that were preventing you from being able to do that.
Absolutely. So you talked about outcomes, and again, one of the phrases we like to use is inevitable outcomes, which is a very predictive, very bold statement. Inevitable, but yeah, if you go through the process, the SOPs that gets you to where your desired outcomes are, they will be inevitable. How do you do that? And interesting that you used healthcare and healthcare systems. I worked for some and consulted and advised executive leadership teams for some of the largest health systems here in the US, up and down the coast and on the West Coast as well. So I very much know those procedures and those meetings, the clinical point of view versus the business. How do you have different points of view come to the table? I think part of that is, creating metrics that are achievable, KPIs, OKRs, whatever you want to call them. But creating those metrics, I think a lot of people, that's kind of a skip to and a skip over some of the things that we like to actually, when we get committees in a room, we like to slow them down. We like to say, okay, let's take a look at this. First of all, you have to be aware. So the awareness has to come in. Then, once you're aware, you have to actually acknowledge that a transformation is needed. Awareness, acknowledgement. Then, once you do that, you need to have some type of analysis. And the analysis comes in where you have insights, experiences, data. So once that comes in the analysis, then there's assigning who's responsible for what. I'm giving a very high level, it goes much deeper than this. But once you assign, then you get all of the critical masses, the stakeholders, what the impact groups are. And then after that assigning, you need to make sure that you activate, and that activation will bring elevation, where again, the rise to the role. because the elevation, a rising tide raises all ships. So once you get to that point where there's that elevation, then you have to make sure that there's excellence in that, really creating a ecosystem of excellence. You can talk about the health system, whether it's the standards, the measurements, all of those predictable, projectable, or desired outcomes. That's when that transformation can take place. But it has to be a step by step process. That's what we found to be successful.
Yeah, when you hear about people saying we need to improve our workplace culture and they want society, we like instant. We've kind of
Oh, yeah.
spoiled ourselves with instant access to everything. Like, oh, I want to watch this movie. Okay, once you figure out what streaming service has it, and if you don't want to buy it or rent it, you're like, okay, it's on Prime. All right, boom, I play it and away we go. It's
Yes.
within seconds or maybe a minute. So we're used to getting that. Where before, both of us are of age where, oh, we want to watch that. Okay, we got to get in the car. We got to drop or drive down to Blockbuster or whatever video store. Hope they
Right.
have it in stock and pick it up. If it's an older movie, they might. If it's a newer movie, you better get there early because they're probably not going to show up. But there was a process there and you had to take some time on that. And I love how you mentioned a moment ago the slowing down. And I find in this instant world that we're in where everybody can get
Yeah.
access to everything,
Right.
it's kind of got us aroused and not necessarily in a good way where we're kind of elevating our energy levels like like this instead of well, I'm gonna drive to Blockbuster. I'll go see if it's there. If it's not there, there's a couple other movies I might want to rent, and you rent it and away you go. But we see that time and time again in businesses that are trying to improve their culture because of
Yeah.
all the problems we've talked about. And they're looking for a quick fix. And you know, a rush job's a crap job. Do you want this? I was going to say shit job, but man, left there. I'll put the E in the logo in the notes, whatever. But it is. It truly is. Every time I see it, it's like, oh, do it right the first time. And I got to reach out to this sales guy because I worked with him 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And I've shared this on my show before, where I was working for a telco company, but again about 20 years ago, and it was early on, like the first couple days that I was there, and I was working with another salesperson, and we were chatting. So, well, let's go talk with Jim, and because I wanted him to go over a couple things with you. I'm like, okay, cool. So we walk in, and Jim's on the phone with one of his sales guys, because he's kind of the sales VP, and he's really being critical of the sales guy because he made like 10 different mistakes. So, which, it's like, ooh, I'm like, he's like, no, he's waving us in. I'm like, I don't want to be listening to this, but he's like, waves it. So he sits down and after he hangs up the call and he goes, thanks for your patience. And he looks at me and he goes, Mike, if you take anything away from this experience working here or anywhere else in your life, do it right the first time. Because if you don't do it right the first time, you're going to be doing it at least three times. You're going to do it wrong. You're going to have to undo it, which is the second thing. And then you're going to have to do it again. And hopefully you did it right the third time. Do you have time to do things three times? No. Do it right the first time. And again, that was 2 decades ago. And I remember that. And when you do things right the first time, sometimes that means you got to slow down. And in this
Yeah.
high-paced world that we're in, that seems counterintuitive, but I find, and I've said this on the show too before, one of my favorite leadership books is The Tortoise and the Hare.
Mm.
It's, that rabbit's bouncing all around. It's
Yeah.
got, not making fun of any type of complexes, but that rabbit definitely has ADHD, attention challenges. Tortoise is just, okay, I know where I need to go. And just kind of goes there and checkered flag waves. And who's winning it? The medal's going around the turtle's head because they, did the race the right way. And I get it. There's all kinds of pressures from your boards, from stakeholders, from everybody else. But if you do it right the first time, then you can avoid all kinds of problems and cleaning up messes and things like that, which unfortunately we see a lot of companies constantly doing. They're constantly cleaning up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give you three words, Mike. Consistency, habits, and discipline. Consistency is doing something so that it is consistent, which builds your level of expertise. Habits are doing something that is repeatable, that again hones in on levels of expertise. Discipline is making sure that you put yourself in a position, regardless of what's happening, that you're still doing it. You're still doing the habit. You're still doing it consistently. And I tie all of those three things to excellence. I tie excellence to making sure that it creates value because, as you stated, the time that we do things, we must put a value to that time. And if we're able to put a value to that time, then we make sure that it is done so that we're not doing it again and again and again. It's like, there's fast fashion. So you can get, five different outfits. And those fast fashion outfits, here today, gone tomorrow, something really slick. But at the same time, if you get one quality, value, well tailored outfit that fits what you need, boy, you can just wear that thing and wear the ones. How much closet space? How much space? And so we say closet space. How much organizational space? Let's change the fast fashion to, desired outcomes. How much closet space is it taking up in organizations? Having five or six different methods versus the one that's tailor fit. So that's why I think absolutely. Let's not rush it. Let's make sure that the specs are measured, cut appropriately, and then the display part, as we talk about discover, develop, display methodology. Your display is far greater than those, five or six other quick fix outfits that you put on.
Yeah, and that's a good segue too. I was going to ask you about AI, which is obviously front and center of a lot of conversations.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I see a lot, especially in this, and we're still in the kind of the pioneer early days of this, it reminds me a lot of the dot-com era because I was
yeah,
working in IT during that time. And boy, oh boy, was that the Wild West. It was a lot of fun, but there were no rules. It's like we were making it up as we went along, which was frightening, but also entertaining. I'm glad I did it at that age of my life and not now. But you know what? I could, depending on what it is, I'm like, oh, all right, I'll do it. But what I see a lot in conversations that I have with, leaders and organizations about AI, unless they have at least some understanding of what they want to use it for, it's quite frankly they're streamlining bad habits. They're like,
yeah.
okay, we're just going to take all these bad habits that we do and we're going to have AI do it for us. Okay, well, guess what? You're still going to get the same output, the same results. You're just going to get it a little bit quicker because AI can churn a lot of things out faster than humans can because it just grabs from what it does and it doesn't have interruptions and text messages and power going out or weather related matters, all the things that can kind of slow us down a little bit. But again, I go, okay, do you want to use it to improve how you're doing things, or are you looking at it as a cost saving thing? But again, and again, my original career is accounting, so I'm all about cost savings and spending money the right way to help your business grow. But you got to be careful what you cut because, like, well, we're saving all of this, but then it's like, well, you just eliminated all the knowledge that is not in your LLM or anything else because you wanted to save some money on salaries, and now you've actually made matters worse. What in so many organizations are really running the risk with that. So, as a leader and someone that works with leaders all the time, what are some of the conversations you're having with people as far as AI, and what they're thinking about it, and maybe even your own experience in leveraging or using it, or just still going. I'm going to let this dust settle a little bit before I jump in. Just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll take you back to the methodology and the practical advice and when I work with executives and even boards is slow down. I also give them a methodology that I shared a little bit before is be aware, and awareness as a leader, you have to admit that there's a level of humility that I am a learner in this process, right? So you have to make sure that there is an awareness. And sometimes there is an awareness that we don't know, but you'd start with the awareness. Then you acknowledge that you don't know. That's where, and then again, I flow in with that methodology path that you go from aware to acknowledge to assess, assess. Then you align. So here, if we talk about these four practical steps, it brings a level of let's look at our current state, let's assess and then align what we want for outcomes against what this AI function, whatever that might be. Everyone has an opinion, and I have one as far as AI. I actually coined it actionable insights. And AI is, I think, can be used as a resource of actionable insights that will help drive and deliver. And then the other part of that is what is it that you're going to apply? So, applied intelligence and actionable insights. I say if you use AI as a resource for both of those, that can help drive what ultimately where you want to get to. So, it's not the answer, it is the solution or resource to your answer. A lot of people are saying it is the answer. It's a solution or a resource to the answer. And you get that through actionable insights and, applying it.
I love that. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna borrow that when I think about it too and go, yeah, actual
Absolutely.
insights. Because that's what it's spot on, in my
Yeah.
opinion, because that's what it is. It's like, okay, I throw some instructions at it, it generates something and go, okay, that's what it was. But I joke whenever I hear, the phrase artificial intelligence, because tech writer John Dvorak, he's been writing tech for PC Magazine and all kinds of other places for a long time. I remember watching a tech show years ago, and there were, AI was starting to be talked about then. He says, artificial intelligence, I think we should start focus on artificial common sense first. But yeah, it's because
Aware.
aware, yeah. John's a curmudgeon, and I love him for it. It's good. But again, I love how you put that together. And again, it's a method. It's a
Yeah.
solution to get you to what
Yes.
you want.
Absolutely.
It's not it's not the thing. It's that what is your thing? Who and I worked for one of the healthcare organizations I worked with years ago. I remember a board member stood up because the board was coming up with ideas of what they wanted to do, and he literally everybody's sitting down. He stood up and like, uh-oh, and Italian guy too. So, it's like, here comes the passion. It's like he's not holding back. And he goes, people, who are we? What do we do? What
Yeah.
is our mission? Who are we?
Yeah.
And don't look around behind you on the walls because the mission, vision, values are on the posters on the walls. You don't remember what they are. Don't cheat and look at them. Who are we? And he challenged every board member. And I'm like, okay, I kind of wanted to do this for a long time, but I'm glad he's taking the bait. Good. But he did. And there was a lot of similarities, but there was some variances. And it was like, okay. And he said, there's our issue. We've
Mhm.
got 12 different companies here. And it's like, but we're only one. So what do we need to do? And it was a good defining moment for the organization and the board and the direction that they provided because it refined what they were. It's like, okay, now that we know this is it,
Mhm.
we say this is the litmus test. Okay. Something
Yeah.
comes up, opportunity comes up. Oh, shiny object, as a lot of people call it. Does that align with the parameters? Does it check all the boxes? No. Somebody else can do it. Talk, and that's where working with your community partners, your business venture partners, and things like that. You may feel it's important to do it. You may not be the one to do it, but somebody else could. and you talk with them and say, hey, what do you think about this? And that's where collaboration and partnerships, and you see it a lot in the nonprofit side, but in corporate too. There's joint ventures and opportunities for people to work together. Long story short is leveraging your leadership skills, rise to the level, continue to aim to grow. And I think that goes for every level. I don't care if you're front lines to the CEO, don't stop growing, learn, be a student of life and leadership and everything else. Because when you do that, you open yourselves to be teachable, a little vulnerable, which is actually a good trait to have to show it's like, hey, I'm human. That everything is going on in the world geopolitically and economically speaking, everybody's facing it, to various degrees. But when you do that, it kind of makes you more relatable as a leader and as an organization. And then in troubling times, you can navigate through it. Companies that survived and navigated through the pandemic and came out stronger than before. I look at them and I go, okay, what'd they do? I'm
Yeah,
curious. What did they do? How did they grow? How did they expand when their counterparts were contracting or going out of business? What was different? What did they do? There's a formula there. What was it? And you reverse engineer it and you go, oh, and time after time, it came down to a lot of the things that you coach on and lead on. It's easy to do, but as the late Jim Rohn says, it's also easy not to. And
that's
unfortunately, too many businesses are kind of playing in that not to field.
absolutely. I love it, Mike, when you said it's the challenge question you heard in that boardroom. Who are you? I do that challenge question quite often, especially when I'm starting to work with new clients, and either be it organizations or individuals. Who are you? What do you want to be? How do you want to get there? And then we start from there. That's the foundation, right? And then ultimately, then let's create a plan to get there, to discover, develop, and display it. But that's the formula. And I would say, leaving that challenge question, make sure you're teachable. Make sure that you create opportunities to be a lifelong learner as a leader. Leaders that stop learning stop becoming leaders. And so I think that's a great opportunity, and a great call out. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you, and I love this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and all this incredible work you're doing?
Yeah. So think of Inspire Randall Ian Thames. Inspire RIT. Inspirit. That's Inspirit. Inspirit, the Institute, inspiritinstitute.com. So it's www.inspiritinstitute.com. That's the repository for where you can get Rise to the Role, the book. You can get the book on Amazon as well. LinkedIn, Randall Thames, Thames. It's my LinkedIn profile. But the website will take you to all of those places, how to get to me and get access. All the socials, either Inspirit Institute or Randall Thames personally.
Awesome. I'll definitely have that in the show notes. So, Randall, thank you for being you. Loved our
Thanks, Mike.
conversation today. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate you. Thanks. Take care.